So this is a part 2 to this video, but yeah, as I was waiting for the first part to render, I was kind of thinking about consciousness, like what it is. And, you know, I haven't really thought about these questions because I haven't really looked at spirituality, and consciousness is a sort of awareness of things. But it made me realize that I don't know if this woman necessarily knows what consciousness actually is or awareness actually is.
So we can give you an example of a wonderful person in the community that is creating beautiful images from channeled messages and creating a vision for something beyond what exists in the human experience at this time that allows the human or you to focus on a potential and a possibility that is an expansion upon where you are, but AI is making that possible.
She kind of goes on about the importance of getting a higher state of awareness, but she also never really states what awareness is, you know, because technically awareness can be anything. It can be many things. You know, you could say that I have a very low awareness when it comes to cars. If you asked me to give details or knowledge on cars, I would probably just give a description of different colors of car that you can have, and I might be able to recognize a couple of brand names, but that's about it really. Like I know nothing about that. So my awareness, and I guess it's not consciousness, but it's awareness or consciousness on what people know about cars. I don't have a good sense on like what cars are or how to fix them or how to go about fixing them. So I feel like you can have a high awareness in certain aspects. When it comes to religion, I have a high awareness because I have studied lots of different religions, and I never really looked at spirituality because I don't know what's inside people's heads, and I don't know when it comes to ghosts, and I don't want to get things wrong. I feel like I'm getting more and more awareness the more I think about things, and I feel though sometimes a lot of people, spiritualists particularly, can insult people that have a sort of low awareness, but I think they don't realize that actually there is good and bad to having a low awareness. You know, okay, a low awareness means that you might not be very bright or something, but it doesn't actually mean that, because technically I would have said that I had a pretty low awareness in the past. I mean, I don't think I would have said it in the past. I would have said probably average, but really I think I had a low awareness just because if your life is crap and you just aren't getting any job opportunities or aren't able to live your life properly, you don't meet the right people, then having a high awareness is actually just going to depress you on all the things that you don't have. For example, like I know there's lots of people living in wealth. They live in massive mansions and have so much to do, and they can afford to go to Disneyland, they can afford to just travel around the world, they can go to expensive restaurants and not have to worry that the bill's going to be high. You know, it'd be lovely to live like that, and it would be lovely to have a sense of awareness of how nice life would be if my life was like that. But if I did have a sense of awareness that my life would be much better like that, then I'm just going to be depressed because it's not like that. You know, I don't have much of awareness when it comes to rich people because I don't want to have an awareness of what the rich people are doing. Why? Because I'm just going to be jealous and end up sort of envying them or being bitter over their life. So sometimes having a low awareness is actually a good thing, and spiritualists kind of aren't aware of that, and they would go on about the importance of awareness, but sometimes awareness is actually recognizing what makes a person happy and what makes a person sad. Now, if you believing that everyone is living in a miserable state, you know, it's not a nice world to live in to believe that, but at the same time it might actually make you feel slightly happier about your own current state and the poverty that you might be facing because you think everyone else is facing a similar thing. I mean, if you are suffering in poverty, like if you are a person who just picks up junk from some scrapyard, you know, you might be very depressed. But if you knew or believed that a lot of people are doing this all over the world, even though you have a sort of low sense of awareness, you actually have a fairly high sense of awareness of a certain aspect, and that certain aspect of society, a lower end of society, you know, might actually make you feel more like you're not suffering alone, so you might actually end up feeling happier. So I feel like life should be about gaining awareness, but sometimes if that awareness is not going to make you in a greater state, then it's probably best not to be so aware of certain things, but rather just to take your path as it comes and try and make the most of any opportunity you get. Okay, doing things is good, but you shouldn't also push yourself, and you should go with the flow, but know that sometimes it's good to push yourself because you might find yourself achieving more and feeling a greater sense of success once you've achieved what it is that you didn't think you could achieve but managed to achieve because you pushed yourself. Also do what makes you happy, and if having a low consciousness actually makes you feel happier, then that could actually be for the best. I mean, if you take, for example, fruit pickers, I might say that they have a low sense of awareness because they are just focused on the fruit picking job, and you might insult that for it, but at the same time it's a very important job, and there's plenty of people that might not work as hard as them but earn a ton of more money, and they like being able to afford fruit, and they like being able to appreciate things that are done at a cheap rate. And if the only reason why these things are cheap is because there's someone else that are happy to make them for a cheap rate, them being at a lower state of consciousness actually helps and benefits to society. And therefore, if they're willing to put themselves in a low frequency of state, should that really be seen as something that is of low consciousness if what they're doing is actually helping the greater city? Imagine like a jigsaw. Everyone has their own piece in this jigsaw puzzle to a role to play, and therefore it's good to be aware, but it's also good to be aware that being aware doesn't necessarily mean that they have to be aware to the things that you are aware to. You might be aware to certain aspects, and other people might be aware or have a greater awareness at other issues, other topics, other job roles or stuff, and this is all awareness, and you can't be aware of everything, hence it's good to be aware of that. It is very good to be aware, and it is possible to have a very low paid job and actually still have a sense of awareness. In your free time you might really love the internet, and you might love doing things like watching films or just sitting watching TV, and if you are someone that's like that, then you can actually be a fruit picker and enjoy your job, even though it's not about the pay or anything, but you can still learn to be happy by just saying, I've got my basic wage, I can watch TV at night, and it would be nice if fruit pickers do have a decent place to live, and they're not living in dirty huts or on the floor or stuff. If we can get rid of extreme poverty like that, that would be great. But I'm thinking about awareness and consciousness, and part of being aware is being aware to the fact that you are not aware to everything. There might be a lot of people that are spiritualists and would think that Christianity or believing in Christianity is a low state of awareness, but there's also truth in Christianity. I am Christ, I am God. Okay, I'm not the God that they talk about, but there is truth in it, and therefore awareness shouldn't necessarily be people saying, oh, if you believe this, you've got a low sense of awareness, and if you believe this, you've got a high sense of awareness, because technically there might be things in what you consider to be a low sense of awareness. There might be truth in that you are not aware of, hence you might be insulting someone for having a low state of awareness when really you're the one who has a low state of awareness because you haven't realized the truth and lies in certain things. There is truth and lies in all religions, and just because you are following a certain religion or a belief, that doesn't mean that you're not aware, because the person who's insulting you for not being aware might not be aware of the truth that lies within that certain belief, and therefore awareness can be seen in many different ways. And I think being open to different possibilities and being able to think about different possibilities, this is what creates a higher state of awareness. And I feel through this higher state of awareness you can find satisfaction even in the smallest of things. And yeah, I just thought I'd say all that. Actually, no, it wasn't me. That was the Galactic Federation talking through me. And I only know this because I'm a spiritualist. I have the highest sense of awareness. I'm not convinced.
Does that make sense to you?
It does. Now, what advice do you give people who are so fearful of all the things that are happening in the world, of AI, of the elections, of the environment in the storms and the raising of the temperature of the planet, and the money system and religion, all of it? There's so much fear going around. What advice do you have for people who are being paralyzed by this fear?
To ask the question, who am I? Who am I? Why am I here? What's my purpose? What's my highest potential? Because as you awaken to who you really are, you transcend the fear.
Try telling that to a serial killer. You're talking very blandly there. What you said didn't make any sense. So he asked the question, what do you say to people who fear? Well, I would say that it depends on what type of person you are. Some people have fear of other people because they fear themselves, because they know they're a really bad kind of evil, corrupt person, and they fear that other people might be like them. Now, if you're living like that, then you have a reason to be living in fear, because you know that there's something wrong with you, and you feel there's something wrong with other people. I feel like a lot of people don't have this sense of fear because they don't see that there's anything wrong in them, and then they find that something bad happens. They go to some place thinking that nothing bad's going to happen, and something bad does happen, and then this starts developing fear within them, because they start thinking, oh my gosh, that person, was dangerous. Why did I do that? Maybe you trusted a friend with something important and they broke your trust. Maybe you got someone to make a promise and they broke their promise, and now you don't trust people. Maybe you've lent money to someone and they never gave it back to you. If you start making the wrong decisions in who to trust, you might start thinking, I obviously can't trust myself to make good decisions. All this will create fear and worry and have you living in worry and fear. Now, sometimes this is a bad thing, fear, and sometimes fear is a good thing, because it would make you take less risks, take more precautions. If you fear insulting Islam, well, that's a good fear to have, because insulting Islam might actually get you killed. So sometimes fear is a good thing, because it will help protect you and make you aware of the dangers that might be in front of you. But sometimes fear can be a bad thing, because it just makes you want to take too much precaution, that you end up not being able to live your life to the fullest, or not being able to take risks, or not being able to enjoy yourself. If you live in a very dangerous area, you might find just walking to the shops being something that you fear. If you live on a very dangerous street and you're an old lady who's getting older and older, and you're finding it harder to cross the road, you might start developing a fear of crossing roads, because you know that people are capable of just running you over and running off and not caring, and therefore sometimes fear is a good thing, but sometimes it's a bad thing, because you can take that fear to an overextended level. So the question you need to ask yourself is the fear that you are feeling, is there a reason for it? Is it necessary? Is it unnecessary? What is the fear that you're fearing? There's lots of different types of fear. Are you fearing people, or are you fearing an accident, or are you fearing yourself and not being able to make good judgments on something? I would say having a partner or a relationship is a good way to overcome this fear, because if something like the toilet breaks, your partner might be able to fix it. If you are not making good judgments on something and you have fear over your own judgments, well, maybe that is because of mistakes that you have made in the past. So if you can analyze the mistakes that you've made in the past, then you can be able to correct anything that you've done, so that you can prevent it from happening again. If you fear having a loved one and them turning against you, or forming a relationship that turns into an abusive relationship, if you fear this because it's happened to you in the past, you must learn from your past so that it doesn't happen again. And you need to embrace the fear, because that fear can help you change things. Although sometimes the fear might be over what will happen if you leave a certain person, but it's not a fear formed out of love, it's a fear formed out of what will they do if you try and get away, in which case that is a really bad kind of fear to be having, because that is not a proper relationship. You shouldn't be in a relationship where you fear not being able to be with that person, because that person might hurt you by you trying to leave them. It's like anxiety. Anxiety is a bad thing, but it's the fear of the unknown and not knowing what's going to happen. But sometimes the fear of unknowing things can actually make you say, right, well, I'm going to do all of the things that I can to make my fears not manifest. So sometimes fear is a good thing, sometimes it's a bad. Sometimes it can go over the top, and sometimes you are actually a pretty bad person and you've done loads of bad things, and you might fear karma. Now, if that's the case, then you deserve to feel that fear. You deserve to feel fear. If you've spent your whole life preaching about how God is a male and God is going to punish lots of evil people, and if God turns out to be me, and yet you've just spent years insulting me, then you need to live in that fear, because this was exactly what the kind of fear you were putting on other people, and you were thinking that you were the good one, you were the righteous one. If you're someone who's doing bad things and not recognizing that what you're doing is bad, then you need to live in fear. Why? Because that fear is going to make you change. Sometimes it's good to be fearful of God, because it will make you not want to get on God's bad side. Sometimes it's a bad thing because it's unnecessary, and I'm thinking, what the fuck, there's nothing wrong with you, why would you fear me? I don't want people to fear me, but at the same time there are some terrible people in the world, and I do want them to fear me, because I feel like if they don't fear me, they're going to attack me. But the thing is, they could fear me too much that they actually use that as an excuse to attack me. So yeah, fear is a very complicated thing, and there's many different things you can say, because there's many different angles or things that relate to fear in different ways, because there are different things you can be fearful from, and some of it is just and some of it's unjust. So yeah, I can say that all the information I just gave you there was from the Galactic Federation, but I don't even know why I would want to do that. Why? Because I want to take the credit for what I've just said, because it was I who just said it. But yeah, her response is just ridiculous. Doesn't make any sense.
The lack, the limitation, the separation. You come into a grander perspective and a higher viewpoint and a level of consciousness where these things no longer have power over you. Who am I? Why am I here? What is my purpose?
So this was his question.
Now, what advice do you give people who are so fearful of all the things that are happening in the world?
And this was her answer.
What is my highest potential? And then start asking yourself the questions. What brings me joy? What do I love? What am I passionate about? What am I excited about? Because here's what's really going on. When you're in fear of everything and you're in resistance, you are literally trying to grasp on to all of this energy and light that is you. And it is that resistance that is overwhelming, is exhausting.
I don't get it.
Does that make sense to you?
It does. Now, in this great shift that's happening, a lot of the older systems are going to start to crumble, start to crack. What is your vision, or what is your perspective on traditional religion and how it will evolve during this time?
Well, religion's played its role, and it still plays a role for those who are having an experience of giving their power away or putting something between themselves and their relationship to Source. There are some people that are on that part of the journey, and that's where they are. Love them and allow them to be where they are.
This woman has no clue what is going to happen in the future. So I believe that religions are going to fall, and it's going to create one new religion. One religion that actually takes all the religions and kind of says, you know, what is the truth and what is the lies. And well, the truth and lies are going to depend on what similarities the religions have versus how they link with me. I am Christ, so I am the returned Christ. So okay, that fulfillment has been fulfilled. Islam is in an inversion of everything I am. So in a way there is truth to it, but it's kind of in an upside down truth. And there's lots of different beliefs that lie within the different religions, but most of them are done to hurt me. You know, the whole never get a divorce thing. I mean, I'm God, but I didn't actually make marriage. Marriage was only really good in the past. I feel like I can explain the religions and why they were the way they were. You know, in the past you didn't have DNA testing, you couldn't work out who the father was, and for a father to want to love his kid, he needs to know who the father is, and therefore by having marriage and things that would prevent the father from thinking that the child is someone else's, you know, by having marriage you can create a better family unit, which would have been better for the family. But yes, religion has taken things like this and actually turned these things that are supposed to be done for a good cause, and they've turned them into a bad cause by saying, you know, you can't get a divorce because you're married and God doesn't agree with divorce, you're going to go to hell if you do. You know, a lot of people in the Catholic Church particularly have put the threat of hell onto people if they don't do whatever the priests say they should do, and this has been very damaging. But then there's a lot of religions that are just being used for a negative way. People like to speak for God, they like to make out that they know what the source is saying, what the source is thinking, and well, I'm the source. I can explain what I'm thinking and what I'm not thinking. This means that all religions are going to crumble because this is what they are. They are religions written by man, formed by man, invented by man, inspired by God, yes, but only God will know what really is inspired by her. Why? Because she will look at the life, she will tell people how she feels, and she will say what is true and what is not, how people link to truth and how people are not linking to truth. You know, I think this woman is linking to truth because it's very good to think positively, and she is doing that. So I don't want to be too critical or judgmental over her because she is being very positive and trying to just think of happier, better ways. But yes, she is not talking for some other council or whatever. I think she'd be better off believing that what she's saying saying is actually just from her own mind, her own consciousness, her own spirit. But there's nothing wrong with it. And people don't know the future. She doesn't know the future. She's not answering the questions. But yeah, she doesn't have to answer the questions, you know. Her answers aren't bad, you know. There's a lot of negative people in the world that might say, oh yeah, Jesus is going to come, murder everyone, you know. Now that's okay. I'm probably more in frequency with that kind of belief, because I'm so angry that I just want my suffering to end, so I want to die. So I'm feeling more in tune with what they're saying right now. But yeah, positivity is very good too. I think it's important for me to see both sides of the spectrum. Why? Because I feel like seeing both sides of the spectrum is actually helping me to see the truth. You know, there are a lot of positive people, there are a lot of negative people. The negative people are probably going to end up killing themselves, and the positive people are probably going to just be like, oh crap, I was wrong. I will change, I will be better, that is fine. And therefore, you know, it's important for me to show you both sides of the spectrum.
Now, one of the things that really a lot of people struggle with is finding their purpose on this earth and finding the reason why they're here. What advice do you have for them?
Well, ultimately, every single one of you are here for your own realization in this life. You would not be hearing this, you would not have drawn this to you, you would not even be asking these questions or listening to something like this if this life experience was not about realization for you. Coming into realization of all that you are, the integration of every part of you to fully ascend into a state of pure love and live as the realized masters that you are here on earth. That is why you are here. It is a natural evolution. It is not something that you force. It will happen naturally. When you feel exhausted and overwhelmed and you're pushing and forcing and efforting, you are trying way too hard.
I guess that's a fairly good answer. The problem is you're here for your own realization. That kind of implies that if you're not here, you will still be somewhere. You just wouldn't have the realization of what's around you. And I don't believe that's the truth. I believe if you weren't here, you wouldn't be alive. You wouldn't be able to experience anything. It wouldn't be just about realizing who you are. It would be that you wouldn't be anything. You wouldn't be alive. You wouldn't be thinking. You know, you have a brain to help you think, to help you live, to help you develop. And when you die, you will be getting another body, another chance, and you'll keep getting these chances until you're able to expand into a different place, a different world, in a sense. I don't know about that place. I know that if there was some place that was amazing, I would take people there, but I'm not going to take people there if they're full of hate, anger, and if they can't realize things. So I feel like there is some truth to what you're saying there. You have to realize, you know, who you are, your potential, but part of your potential is knowing what you can do by looking at what I have done and what I have managed to achieve here. You can achieve on other planets. Okay, not all of you will get that far because it's a long journey and you've got a long way to go. But yeah, and of course whatever it is that I have achieved here, I haven't actually achieved it by my own mortal self. I've been able to achieve it through my un or subconscious mind. You know, I don't know how I've done it. I don't know how I've inspired the songs, but I believe that the songs that you have here are actually the same songs that I've used on all my timelines, only my music collection has got bigger and bigger over time, and somehow I've managed to translate these songs down to the humans to recreate these songs in their own way and make music videos and use their own inspiration along with the videos that I believe would have been done in the past. You know, this knowledge of all the other timelines that I've created, I believe is somewhere. How I get access to it, I don't know. I can't tell you this, but I feel like I have gained access through it because it's my own knowledge, it's my own data. And if you can develop your own knowledge and your own memories and stuff, maybe you'll be able to tap into your memories when you get to this other place. You know, I can't tell you anything about this place. I don't know myself. I want to tell you the truth, but I can't tell you. I just know that everything seems to be linking here. Like so many films seem to be linking to me here, and I believe that I've just done this loads and loads of times, and that's why I've managed to create such a complex timeline. And well, if this is what I can do, then you could do the same thing too. You just need to learn how to do it, and I can't even tell you how to do it because I myself don't know how to do it, because as a human I only have the memories that I have of my life.
Now, someone right now is watching this conversation who has lost somebody, or people who are watching who have lost somebody in the past, and they're curious on what happens to their loved ones when they cross over? Can you give us some details?
In a breath, they release the density of the body and reemerge back into pure love, infinite intelligence, pure bliss, all-knowingness, peace, love, harmony. You have shared many accounts and experiences of those who transition to the other side and have an awareness and then come back. As each of you move into realization, you will barely notice when you have taken that last breath and released the density of the body, because you will be aware that your consciousness is still here as it ever was. None of those who had what you call near-death experiences were making their transitions. They may have released the density of the body to remember and then come back, but they all chose to come back.
I think everything you've said there is exactly what a medium would tell someone if they've just lost someone, but I feel like everything they said is just something that they would say to comfort that person. I have not seen any evidence of real near-death experiences. I do think there is a few seconds where you can float above your bed, but I don't think it's anything more than that. All I have seen is people that could potentially be lying. Like right now, you generally believe you are talking for someone else, and I do not believe you are. I think you are just talking for yourself. And because of this, it makes it very hard to trust anyone when it comes to near-death experiences. But what I know is that I am God, and I have never had a near-death experience. Now, if I was meant to have one of these experiences, I would have had, because then I could share my experience with you. Now, it's interesting how I haven't had any of these experiences. Okay, on one hand, I feel like I'm not meant to talk about that side, if there is a side, because I'm not meant to promote it. I'm not meant to encourage people to go there. If you want to follow lies, if you don't want this world, if you want something else, if you want to believe other things, you can do that and you can go. I feel like this is the message that I need to give. Why? Because I want to encourage people who don't want to be here to go, because people who don't want to be here are not going to bring the right kind of positivity and energy to the world that it needs. The world needs people that want to be here, so I'm not going to start talking about somewhere else and saying that somewhere else can be better. I feel like you're saying what you're saying to comfort people by telling them that yes, there is love and there is bliss in this place, and I know this place of love and bliss, and I go there every day, but I go there every day by just lying in bed and feeling it. Okay, not every day, but I feel it, and I feel much closer to it when I know that I'm alive, when I know I'm able to feel it, because if I'm dead, I won't be able to feel it, because of this. I believe in reincarnation. I don't believe in incarnation. I think you just go from one body to the next, and what happens in between, I'm going to call it a pause state, and I'm going to continue promoting it as just a pause state. Your loved ones are not going to die and that's it. There's nothing more. There is going to be another body. There is going to be another life, and they're going to continue doing this until they're able to get into the next level, the next realm. When that will be, I don't know, but I know that right now people are just living in lies and delusions, and I do not want people to live in lies and delusions, because if you're living in lies and delusions, if there is another world that's full of lies and delusions, well, how are you going to tell the difference between what's real and what's not? I mean, if nothing is real over there, then technically nothing is real, but might you just go mad if you're living in that kind of delusion world? I don't know what the delusion world is, but I know that you can think a lot clearly when here. I know and believe that visions are possible, but I also know that if you start believing things that you want to believe, the visions that you're going to get are probably not accurate. I did have a vision of Rihanna having a girl, and she had 2 boys, so I was obviously wrong there, but I feel like maybe the reason why I had that vision is because I want a girl for myself, hence I was assuming that she would have a girl because that is what I want. So I feel like when it comes to wants and needs, you can't trust visions, because you're just going to be seeing what you want to see and not necessarily what the truth is. At the beginning of the interviewer asks questions about how you know the difference between your thoughts and the thoughts of this federation, and this is what you responded.
Totally.
Well, we're here to talk about your new book, You Are a Channel, receiving guidance from higher realms, ascended masters, star families, and more. So we'll talk a little bit about this. Well, first, let's just jump into this. How do you determine it's not your own head making things up? And like, if you just, let's say you sit down and start having a conversation with yourself, you start asking, hello,
higher self,
so
Sarah.
higher self, hello, spirit guide, Bob, why, Bob, send me, I need some help with this thing, or why are you here? Like, you start asking questions, and answers start coming in, but then you're like, well, that's kind of what I would say.
Yeah.
It like, is it just, am I going crazy? Am I talking to myself in my head, or is there something really coming through? How do you know the difference?
This is one of my favorite questions. And it's when you realize that, okay, if you tune in for a message from, what does my soul want me to know? And you take some deep breaths, and then you just start writing, like an automatic writing or a journaling process. You just go with it. Don't judge it. Just write. And then you read it back to yourself, and it sounds something like this. You are always guided in every moment. You're exactly where you're meant to be. You are loved. You are here as a spiritual being, having a human experience. There's so much more to you. You are powerful. Now, what does the voice in your head usually say?
My voice always says exactly that, Sarah.
No,
I have no idea what you're
it doesn't,
talking about.
Alex.
Perfectly. Like, you are a superstar.
Yes.
I look in the mirror and I go, look at you.
We have those moments, but the voice in my head is, you need to do that, you should have done that, you should have got that done, you need to pick up that,
you did that.
Yes. So the voice in our head is usually judgmental, critical, condemning at times.
Okay.
When you really start tuning into your higher self or your soul, it's this unwavering love, this reverence for you, this compassion for you.
If that's how you describe the difference between you and something else, you is just judgmental and tells you to do this and blah, 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 and that the higher being is just full of love and peace and harmony, if that's the difference, I would trust the voice in my head, because the thing that's full of love and peace and harmony, that just feels like full of lies. That's full of lies and delusions. That's you just that's you being in a meditative state, trying to meditate, trying to focus on positivity, trying to bring positive energy to you. And I'm not saying you shouldn't do that, because that's a very good thing. You should definitely do that. But that does not mean that it's coming with truth. It's telling you what you want to hear. So just because something is telling you what you want to hear and making you feel really good about yourself, you're special, you're loved, that to me would be like me just saying, oh, fuck off, because I know that ain't the truth. I've been ignored for 11 years. This world doesn't give a shit about me. So if you're going to start saying that, I don't want you in my head, because you ain't the truth. You are a liar. I feel like those two voices are the difference between the devil and God. The devil will tell you everything you want to hear, will tell you you're amazing, tell you you're special, but it will be doing that just to build up your ego and lie and deceive. So, if the realistic voice is going to be like, oh no, you didn't do that, oh you should have said that, oh no, you shouldn't have done that, why are you doing that for? If that is what the voice in my head is saying, I would far rather trust the voice in my head, because that to me sounds like God, whereas the thing that just wants to tell me everything that I want to hear, that to me sounds more like the devil. I do hear a voice in my head, yes, and I consider this voice to be nothing more than just me and perhaps my higher self. So sometimes I feel like I'm just thinking on my own level, on my own tone, and sometimes I feel like I'm getting knowledge or insight about something that's going to happen. The only difference is I can't tell the difference until after the event has happened. So if I feel like the voice in my head is telling me to go turn the TV on, perhaps it's doing it because there's a very interesting program on, which is something that has happened to me a lot of times. Like, I don't know, my sister was autistic and I was, I guess, not understanding her, and then I happened to turn the TV on and just, oh look, there's a program all about autistic kids and how to understand them. Oh, what a coincidence. Things like this happen to me a lot. The catch is, if I feel the voice in my head is telling me to go turn the TV on, I'm not going to know if that was me saying to turn the TV on, or if that's a voice in my head that's a higher being and knows that I'm about to start watching something interesting online. I'm not going to know the difference until I actually do it. As another example, there's a shop that has a shopping basket full of really amazing deals, and sometimes I feel like the voice in my head is saying, you know what, go and take a walk, go down, see if there's any bargains there. Often I go, I find there's no bargains, but once I went there and I found that there was like 100 baked bean tins, and I really love baked bean tins and they're only 25p each. So I got basically like 6 months supply of baked beans. In a way, I felt like that voice was telling me to go and check out the basket. But yeah, until I actually went to see what was there, or if there's nothing, or if there's good deals, or if there's not good deals, you know, I can't really tell the difference until I've actually gone there and seen if there's good deals. I feel like for the last 11 years there has been a voice in my head, and well, some of the voices like to say, it's only got a few more weeks, you know, just make this video, people will come and talk to you in a few weeks time, everything will be fine. But you know what, that voice is always wrong. So I'm sick and tired of that voice that told me that, you know, I am God, I'm Christ, people are helping me, people do care about me. You know what, I don't give a shit about that voice any longer, because that voice is wrong. If you're hearing some voice of love and something that truly cares for you, I don't believe it, I don't trust it. There is no voice in your head that cares about you. That is just something that's trying to comfort you. The voice in my head, though, that tells me, the voice in my head sounds a bit more like Miss Hannigan from Annie. You know, that is the kind of voice that I am actually going to trust, because that is the voice that seems to be more realistic. Okay, this is me channeling the voice in my head. Little girls, look at what I'm dripping with. Little girls. Send the flood, send the flu, anything you can do to it'll. That's what my voice in my head sounds like now. The voice in my head now is just saying, they ain't gonna care about you, they ain't gonna come. Nah, you can put your hopes up now, people coming to help you next month, but that ain't gonna happen. These people don't give a shit about you. You know what? That is the voice that turns out to always be right. So that is the voice that I'm going to listen to. I'm going to listen to the voice that's always right. And if the voice that's always right is always negative and always sounds drunk, well, at least then I will feel like I'm listening to the voice that's always right, rather than the voice that's always positive that just leads me into believing shit and trying to convince me that people care about me when they clearly don't.
And so it's learning to trust that. And even if it is coming from your head, follow the energy, follow the light. What I mean by that is you can feel when something is aligned or not aligned. And most of the time when we're asking a question, like I said, it's when something's not right. So you're having an issue, you're having some sort of problem, you want to fix the problem, your logical mind wants to fix it now and figure it out. And yet most of the time when we're in that place, we're not in the vibration or the consciousness level of where the highest answer is. Mm-hmm. And so if you can just ask the question and then let it go. Go out and do something that brings you joy, go for a walk in nature, go do something fun. And most of the time the answer will pop in that moment, or the knowing will come.
I know exactly what you're saying when you're saying that. You're saying that when there comes to answers of questions that you want, you know, you just have to think about the best possible outcome, and that is the highest level. You know, that is almost what you're implying, that the best outcome, the answer that sounds the nicest, the one that's full of most love, the one that's full of harmony and bliss, that is the answer that's the truth. But it's not. The answer that is most right is usually for me the one that's the most negative, because that is the one that's going to lead me to less disappointment. And if it doesn't turn out to be as bad as what the voice is saying, well, then I'm actually going to feel some sort of satisfaction from that. So, you know, I don't believe what you're saying. I think you can't tell the difference between the voice in your head and the voice that you just want to believe is the truth because it sounds better.
And for those who want to go deeper and actually learn how to channel, I've had so many people that, okay, I want to tune into my higher self or my loved one on the other side or animal communication, but I definitely don't want to be a verbal channel.
Yeah, that's
then
the
they
extreme.
are.
That's the extreme, like a verbal channel and a trance channel. That's the ultimate.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. I don't see many trance channels anymore. I've taken about 5,000 people, students from around the world, through this particular series of learning how to channel, which is covered in the book. Mm-hmm. And most people are conscious channels. And that's kind of what trips them up, because they can still hear the voice in their head, even though they might be verbally channeling this incredibly profound message. Most people think of it as Edgar Cayce or channels from the 70s. It's Seth Speaks, Course in Miracles. And they think, oh, I go in a trance and don't remember anything at all, and that's what channeling really is. And I believe because of the vibration and the frequency of where we are now collectively and individually in our consciousness, mm-hmm. It's no longer necessary for you to be in a trance to channel. And so when someone that you love makes their transition, they are continuing their journey in higher dimensions of consciousness beyond physical form. But it is a continuation of their journey as a soul.
You saying that don't make it the truth. You know, I could easily just channel the same thing. When they pass, they get put on pause, they get assessed, they get a new body, and then they continue their journey in a new body, a new life, new family. You know, me saying that in a sort of channeling type way doesn't make it any more truthful. I've basically just taken something that I believe and I've said it because that's what I believe, and I feel like that's what you've done. You have, in parts of this conversation, you know, insulted Christians for not being at the conscious state to accept things that you believe or accept the spiritual realm. But technically your belief is just your belief and your faith, and maybe you criticizing other people, saying that they need to get away from their beliefs and move on to the next stage. Maybe that is actually a message for you to also do the same thing, to get away from this channeling belief and start seeing your beliefs as your beliefs, which is fine, you're entitled to have them. But by claiming that they're news or messages from the other realm, you know, this is how Christianity got formed. People wrote the book, the Bible, because they thought God was talking to them, and this is how Christianity was formed. And in the same way, spirituality is being formed by people claiming to have knowledge or superhuman knowledge from some other being in their head, and it's not the truth. I feel like if you are channeling some sort of spirit that comes in love and peace and perfect harmony, I feel like you are more likely to channel the devil. Why? Because it's just not reality, and I feel like something is deceiving you.
There is nothing like this earth experience. It is the best thing going on here, to come to earth at this time and to come to realization through the earth experience. It is a great privilege to be here in physical form at this time. And many of your loved ones have already awakened and come into realization and came forth to be part of your experience of realization in this lifetime. And their transitions were part of your awakening and part of your realization. And honor those moments when your human feels a sense of sadness for the loss of your loved one in physical form. There is never any judgment for that. But as you take some deep breaths and feel for a state of peace and start to feel their presence, you allow them to be with you where they are now. And you allow yourself to be with them where they are now.
And what advice do you have for those who are feeling lost and isolated in life?
First off, you are so guided, supported, and loved every moment of your journey.
Do you see what I'm saying? She is literally only telling people what they want to hear. I am lonely and isolated. I don't have anyone helping me. There's a voice in my head that sounds like Miss Hannigan and drunk. I don't know what she's talking about. She's just telling people what they want to hear, which is sad because people shouldn't take advantage of people's wants and needs. They should focus on what the truth is. I know they might feel better believing that their loved ones are by their side and stuff, but I feel like you can turn this into abuse and use it as a money-making opportunity to make money out of trying to get them to remember their connection. But you're doing it through lies and deceptions and falsities, and I just don't believe that it's the truth, so I wouldn't encourage people to do it. But technically, I don't give a shit about people right now. I feel like no one gives a shit about me. I don't know why I've been ignored for 11 years. But yeah, if you want to just lie to each other, I don't really care because you're lying to people about me every single day, so why should I care if you lie to each other? I get that she's trying to make people feel comfortable and supported, like their loved ones are somewhere, but I feel like she doesn't realize that by creating this movement that your loved ones are living in bliss. You know, if the people on earth are going to have a shitty day, they're going to want to go and join their loved ones in bliss, and it's just going to encourage suicide. So it's a death cult that she's promoting. I know you probably don't see any harm with what she's doing now, and there isn't really that much harm, but imagine what the world would be like if Christianity died and if everyone turned to spirituality and everyone, or there was a huge number of people, believed that the spiritual realm is a real place that you can get to and that Earth is just an experience, it's just a temporary thing, and as soon as you die you can go back to home, you can go back to where you belong. If everyone believed this, then suicide is going to be a massive issue.
Does that make sense to you?
It does. It does. And finally, do you have any parting messages for the audience?
We couldn't be more excited for you. This is the most incredible time. You are coming into levels of realization and pure love like nothing you've ever experienced in form before. You are truly the powerful creator of your reality. Your realization is a natural evolution into the integration of every part of you to fully know your power, the light that you are, and how loved you are.
Sorry to tell you this, but if people woke up and realized that actually God was like Miss Hannigan and she hates everyone and she thinks the place is a mess and that overpopulation is just destroying the world, and I know you're trying to keep things positive and everything, but yeah, this is going to make people feel very disappointed when they realize the truth that God despises them, that the spirit of love is more like the spirit of mental illness and just people lying to themselves about what's really going on. And that's the main reason why there's so many problems here, because people hate God and God hates her people.